we have discussed about what is motivation, types of motivation, what is motivational cycle, how it directs the human behavior. Now, let us see some more details related to the concept of motivation. Do you know who are the persons who are associated with the concept of motivation? Any idea? Did you read any books related to the motivation? Who is the most important person associated with the motivational concepts? There are number of people. McDougall, he is the first one to introduce the concept of motivation, but though he never used the term motivation as such. Then Sigmund Freud, he used the term unconscious motivation. We will see that what is unconscious motivation later, but another person is Abraham Maslow. He is one of the significant persons associated with this concept of motivation. He mentioned about, or he propounded, or he explained, he tried to explain this concept of motivation by using a hierarchy of needs. Did you see this hierarchy of needs? The first basic need, that is the physiological need. Once you raise to the ladder, it is the safety needs, followed by the social needs, and then comes the most important needs, self-esteem and the self-actualization. So, what are these hierarchy of needs? Is it essential to pass through all these stages, or can we have all these needs at any time? For example, physiological needs. What are the physiological needs? Physiological or biological or viscerogenic needs. We use the three terms, but definitely they are used interchangeably.
Bodily needs like food, clothing, and other.
Something which we related, which we discussed related to the primary drives. So, they are nothing but the biological needs. When these biological needs are inhibited or are deprived of, definitely we are driven to achieve this kind of the motivation and to engage into that kind of action. Suppose you are deprived of the sleep, how many days you can be deprived of the sleep? Probably for 3 days, 2 days, 3 days, but after that can you sustain your sleep? And by the third day itself you might be seeing number of symptoms, number of physiological and psychological reactions. Okay. So, you are interested, you are focused more on the biological needs like sleep, water, food, oxygen, all these things. Only when these needs are fulfilled, only when these needs are completely satisfied, then you will be proceeding to the second hierarchy or second step in the hierarchy, that is called safety needs. What do you mean by this safety needs? The second concept is safety needs. Are you secured? Can you claim yourself that I am in a secured place? I am in a secured conditions? Why? Why do you feel so? How can you say so confidently, yes, I am in a secured position?
We are under the shelter and we are protected.
Yeah, you are protected from both the external environment and also the other disturbing atmospheres. Okay. External environment is the pollution, rain, sun, all these things. Disturbed environment could be disturbed social situations which curb the personality of the individual or which affects the personality of the individual. What is the third step? Third step in the hierarchy, social. What do you mean by these social needs? Love and belonging. What do you mean by this love and belonging?
Being loved.
If you just remember the previous session, probably you can identify the need for affiliation is nothing but because we esteem or we are more interested, we are focused on these kind of the love and belongingness needs. We want everyone. Can you be happy in a very rich palace without any companion? Definitely not. You want some company. You may be enjoying for 1 or 2 days, but not each and every minute of the life. So, love and belongingness, the togetherness, the relatedness is one of the important concepts and important needs which the human being is aspired for. So, if all these three needs are fulfilled, then you will be thinking of esteem needs, self-esteem. What is this self-esteem? Do you have a positive self-esteem or a negative self-esteem or a low self-esteem? Self-esteem is how you assess yourself, how you evaluate yourself. How do you evaluate yourself right now at this moment? Positively, highly positive, moderately, or very low self-esteem. Can there be any person who can say that I do not have a positive self-esteem? No. Why not? There may be people who have a low self-esteem or who have a negative self-esteem. What do you mean by this self-esteem? It is self-evaluation. How you evaluate about yourself. Generally, people will be evaluating us, right? You are not speaking properly or you are not studying properly, your behavior is not proper. So, people are evaluating, they are rating your behavior, your personality, but self-esteem is how you evaluate, how you try to assess yourself. So, when you assess, when you rate yourself in a positive way, naturally the self-esteem goes up. When you rate yourself in a negative way, definitely the self-esteem will be either towards the other side, that is low side or in a negative way. But how do you assess yourself, positively or negatively? How do you evaluate? What criteria do you use?
We try to compare with others. Compared with others, where am I?
Okay. Is it good comparison with others? A realistic comparison always helps us to grow. A healthy competition or a healthy competitive spirit will always enable us to grow. But suppose like each and every aspect of your behavior, each and every phase of your life, if you are trying to unrealistically compare, and then if you evaluate in a negative way, definitely you tend to have or you tend to develop the negative feelings. So, self-evaluation or self-esteem depends upon how you are evaluating all your phases of life, all your components of the behavior, like for example, your studies, your career, your economical standards, your standard of living, that is, your affiliations, your relationships, how successfully you are able to adjust to the other people. So, all these aspects put together called as the self-esteem. So, in one area you may be very excellent, you may be the topper in the class, but suppose if you do not have even a single friend to share your personal experiences, naturally can you say that I have a positive self-esteem? No. Like how all the parts of the body put together makes a correct figure of the person. Similarly, all the aspects of the personality, if they are successful or if you are filled with the positive states in all these phases, only then your self-esteem will be growing, your self-esteem will be in a positive way. So, a person who is very good in one aspect, but lacks or deprived seriously in the other way, definitely tend to have a negative self-esteem. So, we need to evaluate ourselves, we need to try to assess ourselves in all the aspects, not with the unrealistic comparisons, but with the realistic comparisons. So, once your self-esteem needs are also fulfilled, then what do you aspire? You have physiological needs, not just the basic food, probably you can have a good 3-day meal probably in the star hotels, okay. Whenever you want to party, you can party. So, all these things are there. You also have a very bungalows, good bungalows, okay, palaces, but still you are not satisfied. You aspire for the love and belongingness. You also have a good company of the people, a good team, a good peer group, a good relationship with the intimate relationships, that is intimate relatives, and then you are not stopping there. But what else? You want the recognition, you want to be accepted by the society, and successfully even you have achieved it. Can you say that, okay, I am successful in this, I am just happy thoroughly with the life? What do you feel? What do you say? What is the ultimate need? What is the meaning or what is the purpose of the life of an individual?
Maybe to understand about himself.
Understand about himself. Okay. Can you name it? Can you use any term for it? Understanding oneself can also be done at all these levels. Okay. Whether I am aspiring for the higher things or unrealistically I am thinking about it, all these things can be found out. So, trying to actualize whatever you have said, trying to understand oneself is trying to actualize oneself. So, this is one of the important concepts which has not been mentioned by any of the other psychologists, though they focused upon all these basic needs, but self-actualization is one of the significant concepts given by the Abraham Maslow. Self-actualization is nothing but it is a tendency to use all your potentials, all your capacities, not for the selfish interest, but for the benefit of the society as a whole. Throughout all these years of lifespan, you may be striving for yourself, how I should fulfill my biological needs, how I should fulfill my safety needs, how to achieve the affiliation to the others, or how my self-esteem will be increased, what should I do for it. But once you have crossed all these things, once you reach the self-actualization, here you will be using all your maximum capacities, all the resources, whether it is your psychological resources or the financial resources, all these resources not for your own selfish interest, but for the benefit of the society as a whole. So, it is very interesting to identify all these needs, to look at this pyramid. How do you rate yourself? Where do you rate yourself? At which stage you are? If you assess yourself right now, at which stage you are in this pyramid, whatever we have discussed? You are in the fulfill the social needs, fulfilling the social needs.
I think I am in the middle of my social needs, trying to achieve my social needs.
Okay. So, you are not thinking right now at this moment about your self-esteem?
I think about my self-esteem, but it also comes under my social this thing.
So, the more focus is right now on the social needs. Very good. So, can we say that we are not if we are at this point, physiological needs or safety needs or psychological needs, are we not thinking about the other needs? The pyramid is there, we have to step one after the other, but definitely we are also thinking about the other aspects, but the more focus at this moment will be depending upon the situation, that particular point. Okay? So, what is this self-actualization? Using your own capacities, using all your resources, not for yourself, but for the others, for the benefit of the others. So, he also gave Abraham Maslow different characteristics of the self-actualizing people. Is it easy to see, is it easy to identify or to reach this stage, self-actualizers? Can we say that it is easy to reach that peak experience, peak point in the hierarchy? Why not? So, whether it is easy to reach that position or not, whether it is impossible to reach that position or not, to understand that particular point, let us see who can be called as the self-actualizers, how their characteristics would be. One of the important characteristics is they are more creative. You can look there, they are more productive and creative. Productive and creative not because I will get the money, but in what way I can contribute to the society. So, in what way people are productive and creative? Did you see any self-actualized person?
Mother Teresa.
Okay. Can you elaborate that point?
She devoted her entire life for the welfare of the society and for the people who are deprived.
Yeah, we see in the society number of people doing number of things, but with the expectation. But when we see the people doing various things, various deeds for the benefit of the others without expecting anything in return, we can say that they are more towards the self-actualization. Okay? Whatever productivity or productive capacity they are using, or whatever creative thoughts they have, all that is not for their selfish interests, but for the benefit of the society as a whole. Then can we say that self-actualized people are always serious, only seriously thinking about the society and the people? They are also be witty, have the good sense of humor. It is not necessary that you have to detach yourself completely from the surroundings or from the people or from the society, but using appropriate humor, being very spontaneous in understanding the situations, in dealing with the people, that is one of their important characteristics. Okay. Then possessing good values, high values, not only good values, high values, truth, enjoying the beauty of the nature. How many of you enjoy really the beauty of the nature? In this context, do you remember any English poet who mentioned about the leisure time, how people are spending? What is this life if full of care?
John Keats.
We have no time to stand and stare. Who said this? W.H. Davis. So, this reflects how monotonously people are leading the life. So, taking some time for yourself, enjoying the beauty, trying to master the values which you possess and also inculcating into the others some good values. So, people have to be inspired by you. Okay, this person is doing this, why not me? Did you see any small children trying to inculcate these kind of the values in others? School children or college students coming and putting Helpage India boxes for the donation. Okay, they do not obtain anything from it, but this is just to they contribute and also try to inculcate that kind of the value in the others. So, possessing high values, maintaining those high values is one of the important characteristic of a self-actualizer. How many of you are very happy with the life, with the way you are living, with the way you are? Definitely no single person says I am totally happy, right. But the moment you try to enjoy the life, accepting the ups and downs of the life, taking the life as it is, that means it is called something like Maslow has used the term self-actualization, but in the Indian context we can say sthitaprajna, okay? Not affected by the ups and downs, accepting the realities, dealing with the situations. You cannot avoid the situations. Can you escape from it? People will escape, but that is not the way to deal. So, accepting and dealing with the situations without being affected emotionally, cognitively or behaviorally. That is one of the important characteristics. Not only that, being innovative, coming out with new thoughts, new ideas, and then not again once again for the sake of the others, not for their own sake, okay? For the sake of the others, but not for their own sake. That is one of the important characteristics. Do you see any of these characteristics in the near and dear of your relatives or anyone, or in the society at large? Nowadays, this concept of actualization tendency has been increasing fortunately. There is an awareness that it is not only for me, I should also contribute something to the society. Generally they say, there is a saying, you never think what this society has contributed to you, but you contribute what is that you are contributing to this society, that is more important. So, when you are thinking in this context, naturally you are proceeding towards this kind of the self-actualization. And nowadays we see number of corporate employees, what is that they are doing? If you take the example at the superficial level, okay, there may be certain intricacies involved, but most of them, what is that they are doing, corporate employees?
Working for NGOs.
Working for the NGOs, adopting the villages, adopting some school children, spending their money or spending their leisure time. It is in one way we have to appreciate it. It is not that for their own benefit they are doing, okay, they may get the recognition, they may get the other benefits in the sense the psychological pleasure and other aspects, but definitely it is one step forward towards achieving the self-actualization. And most of the corporates, after a particular stage, they want to develop some kind of a charity organizations in order to contribute to the society. Okay. So, all these things are a welcoming signs in order to proceed towards the self-actualization. So, do you agree that you should also proceed in that particular direction? Did you make a step towards that direction? So, at this point we will stop about the hierarchy of needs, but before proceeding to the next concept, there are deficiency needs and the growth needs in this particular hierarchy. What do you mean by these deficiency needs and growth needs? We call it as D needs and G needs, which are called as deficiency needs. If you just try to look at your pyramid, okay, you have physiological needs, safety needs and the sociological needs. These things are generally you will be deprived and you want to achieve that. Okay. So, these three are called as deficiency needs. When a person is deprived of the food, when a person is deprived of the safety, when a person is deprived of the social needs, he tries to restore that, he tries to aspire for it, he tries to achieve it and maintain it. But if you try to see the other two needs, self-esteem and self-actualization, are they deficiency needs? They are called as growth needs, G needs or B needs, being, B in the sense being needs. First three are deficiency needs, the next two are the B needs or G needs. Being, what is that I am doing here in this life? Why am I existing? The self-esteem will give you what is that, how you are evaluating, what is that you are doing. Your self-actualization tendencies reveal whether you are a self-centered person, egocentric person or something like an altruistic personality. You know what is an altruistic personality? Being instead of being the self-centered, probably you are out-centered, okay, where you are contributing your resources to the others, to the external side, to the external factors. For that reason, we call the first at the top of the two needs are called as the B needs and the G needs, growth needs. So, here we will stop this kind of a hierarchy of needs, but now let us proceed to the another important concept. Okay. Do you experience conflict? What is this conflict? When this conflict occurs?
When there is difference of opinion.
Okay. When there is a difference of opinion, you experience conflict. That is called as interpersonal conflict. But always only in the presence of others you experience conflict. Sometimes within ourselves also we experience conflict, intrapersonal conflict. So, under what situations do you experience intrapersonal conflict?
In decision making process.
Okay.
If we have two alternatives and what to choose and what not to choose, it depends on us.
So, always at one point of the time, some point of the time or the other we experience conflict, especially when this conflict is related to your motives. When this conflict is based upon your motives, we call it as a motivational conflict. Is interpersonal conflict more difficult to resolve or intrapersonal conflict more difficult to resolve? Naturally, sometimes we ignore if there is a conflict from the outside force, but if it is something related to your own personal life, personal motives, the experience or the pain will be more, right. So, one of the important concepts which we undergo in the present day-to-day life is motivational conflict. So, this motivational conflict occurs when there are two equally important motives or when there are two completely unattractive motives, or in some situations where you have one important aspect and the other negative aspect of the same situation. Okay, in these situations it is very difficult to resolve. Let us see what are those motivational conflicts. The most simplest or probably the most difficult, it is not the simplest, the most difficult conflict is approach conflict. There is one goal, okay, but there are two equally attractive situations. You have to choose only one attractive situation. How will you choose it? Should I watch the cricket World Cup match or should I prepare for tomorrow's last end semester exam? Equally you are attractive. I want to prepare for the exam, I also want to watch the world match. So, how do you resolve this? And all your famous or probably players have been involved in that. So, you wanted to watch, you do not want to miss it. At the same time in the morning 10 o'clock you have the exam. How do you resolve it? That is called as approach. I want to watch, I also want to read. So, generally how do you resolve it? Did you ever experience these kind of the situations? Probably in certain situations you are preparing, but you also have relatives at home. You want to talk to them, you want to spend some time with them, because again they will be leaving immediately. Definitely it is a difficult situation, right. That is known as approach conflict. When there are two desired conditions, should I seek this, should I seek that? Something like this career or that career at the time of admissions, or you got two good jobs, should I choose this job or that job? Each has both the positive points, each has the negative points. So, it would be difficult. Suppose if one job has all the plus points, if one job has all the negative situations, it is easy to choose, but equally attractive and unable to resolve. That is called approach. Most of the life situations are something like this. Okay? This is an example of the approach conflict. Next one is approach avoidance. You want to approach, that is you want to be associated in the situation, but at the same time you also want to avoid the situations. Can you give me an example for this? Approach and avoidance. You want to approach, you also want to avoid. Can you think of any example? I want to write the exams, but at the same time I did not prepare, I do not want to get 0 in the exam, but this is also important, I should go and attempt the exam, otherwise I will be considered as a failure, or the parents may be scolding me, but at the same time I am very confident that I would get only 0 in that. Should I go and write the exam or should I avoid the exam? That is also difficult to resolve the situation. Okay. So, now can you think of the example? Which condition should I accept? Okay, just think, we will come back to this. Generally avoidance tendencies, another tendency is avoidance-avoidance. You are having a pain in the tooth, but you are also afraid of the dentist. You took the appointment, okay, but as the time is approaching, thinking of the dentist, thinking of the instruments, thinking of the equipment, you are just trying to avoid. But at the same time you also want to avoid the pain, but the pain is not going with your own home remedies. So, what happens? You want to avoid the pain, but you also want to avoid the doctor. And generally this is the situation where we see in most of the hospitals. Whenever there is any physical distress, people generally take a back step, especially when they suspect that there might be a chance for some kind of a disorder like cancer, diabetes. We do not want to focus on this, we do not want to listen to these aspects. So, what they do is generally postpone, okay, tomorrow I will go or day after tomorrow I will go. So, that tomorrow will never come, that is they want to avoid, but at the same time they also feel the pain, they want to overcome that, unable to resolve it. So, avoidance, the classic example we can give, you are stuck up between a devil and the deep blue sea. You want to avoid the sea because there is no other way to cross it, but if you turn this side there is a monster or there is a devil there. You want to avoid the devil, you also want to avoid the sea, that is avoidance. So, these are similar examples or similar situations where mostly we are confronted in the life experiences. Okay. And what happens? How do you resolve when you are stuck up with these kind of the conflicts? Whatever be the conflict, there will be an oscillation, you know the oscillation, whether to do this or that. Okay? Before you take the decision, there is a strong oscillation between these kind of the conflicts. You are unable to weigh, unable to go which side to be taken place, but ultimately depending upon your goals, depending upon your achievement motivation or affiliation motivation or power motivation, you will be taking the decisions. So, initially before you take the decisions, there will be a lot of oscillation. Once that oscillation stops, then you will be able to take the or resolve the conflicts. So, this is a small situation or this is a small explanation given about these motivational conflicts. If you have any doubts, you can ask the doubts.
Can we call scientists who are productive and creative, are they self-actualized persons like?
To some extent, probably you cannot say completely they have achieved the self-actualization. If you take Edison or if you take someone else who contributed, who through their investigations, who benefited the society, electricity, whatever it is, definitely they have contributed something to the society for the benefit of the society. They have used their potential, they have used their time for the others, not for their own benefit. And in the previous decades, they never got the recognition. For example, if you think of Galileo, Galileo has focused on the telescope, but he has been penalized, he has been punished by the religious persons rather than getting the recognition. But still, in spite of the hurdles, they moved forward. That is a characteristic of the self-actualizer.